Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Brinda Devi Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Brinda Devi. Jaya Brinde, Jaya Brinde, Jaya Brinde, Jaya Shri Brinde, Jaya Brinde, Jaya Brinde, Jaya Shri
Satya Namo Namaha. Vishnu Bhakti Radhe Devi Satya Vachai Namo Namaha. Satya Vachai Namo Namaha. We offer our most respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava Lords of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपीजनवल्लभा यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, and all glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So before I attempt to speak something, I want to seek the blessings of His Holiness Bir Krishna Maharaj and senior Vaishnavas like Apurva Prabhu and Drishta Prabhu here. May the right words come at the right time, in the right mood of glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam, purifying our consciousness and pulling our hearts closer and closer to Shri Radha Golokananda's lotus feet. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Canto 10, chapter 75, text 39. Savridito vagvadano rushajvalan Nishkramya tushnim prayayau jaggajahvayam Haheti shabdhasu mahana bhutsata Ajata shatru vimana iva bhavat Babhuva tushnim bhagavan bhuvabharam Samujjihirshur bhramati sma yadrisha. Please chant. Translation. Humiliated and burning with anger, Duryodhan turned his face down, left without uttering a word, and went back to Hastinapur. The saintly persons present loudly cried out, "Alas, alas!" And King Yudhishthir was somewhat saddened. But the Supreme Lord, whose mere glance had bewildered Duryodhan, remained silent, for his intention was to remove the burden of the earth. Please kindly repeat after me. Humiliated and burning with anger, Duryodhan turned his face down, left without uttering a word, and went back to Hastinapur. The saintly persons present loudly cried out, "Alas, alas!" And King Yudhishthir was somewhat saddened. But the Supreme Lord, whose mere glance had bewildered Duryodhan, remained silent, for his intention was to remove the burden of the earth. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, when Duryodhan left in such an angry mood, everyone regretted the incident. And King Yudhishthir also became very sorry. But despite all occurrences, Krishna was silent. He did not say anything against or in favor of the incident. It appeared that Duryodhan had been put into illusion by the supreme will of Lord Krishna. And this was the beginning of the enmity between the two sects of the Kuru dynasty. This appeared to be part of Krishna's plan in his mission to decrease the burden of the world. Hare Krishna. So in this section of Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam, we see how in this beautiful palace built by Mayadanav, Duryodhan gets illusioned and he considers walls to be doors and he tries to open them, and he considers doors to be walls and tries to walk through them. He looks at a floor which is shining effulgent and considers that to be floor, but actually it's a beautiful pond. And then he finds a pond which he thinks is actually a floor, walks through and falls in, and vice versa. And it's described how when he thinks it's actually a pond and it's actually floor, he lifts his garments and clothes, getting ready not to be drenched, but he actually walks through, being scared that he may fall into this pond. And looking at this whole situation, everyone starts to laugh. Bhima starts to laugh loudest, because he has had issues with Duryodhan for a long time. And at this point, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he tries to tell the Pandavas, please don't laugh. It's not good to laugh at the mistakes of others. But Krishna seems to be silent. In fact, it's Krishna who's glancing at the Pandavas and through his eyes and through his eyebrows, hinting, continue to smile, continue to laugh, giggle, chuckle, make fun of him. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami Pad write that Krishna is doing everything possible to make Duryodhan angry. Why? Because after so many attempts, now this is the seed of the war. It's quite amazing that without Krishna's will, nobody can fall in illusion. Nobody. But at the same time, it's the duty of the devotee that if someone is going through a certain phase of illusory potency, we are not supposed to make fun and laugh and joke and mimic and tease that person. We find many examples of Duryodhan in this world, where jivas do make mistakes. They do slip and fall on the floor thinking that it's actually a pond. And many times they do fall into a pond which they thought was a floor. Not literally, but in their own lives. And it's the duty of a devotee following the footsteps of Yudhishthir Maharaj to make sure that they don't laugh and they don't let others in their group not make fun of such a person. And we find so many examples of this. In Chaitanya Leela, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes on Keshav Kashmiri, Keshav Kashmiri comes in as a very proud Pandit, and he sits on the banks of the Ganga. And Vyasadev Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, looked like a full moon surrounded by his associates and disciples who were all effulgent like the stars. And it was quite interesting because the full moon was reflected in the waters of the Ganga. But at the same time, on the banks of the Ganga was the full moon, which was spotless, frolicked by and surrounded by wonderful associates who were all like twinkling stars. And in this association, in this assembly, when Keshav Kashmiri comes with his very proud, royal, regal appearance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu welcomes him. And then as the debate unfolds, there comes a point where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts ripping to pieces the verses that Keshav Kashmiri chanted. It's described Keshav Kashmiri had the power to compose and chant at will shlokas. Now, for us in the present generation, even to chant a verse which is on the screen or in front of us in the form of the book, to read that verse with English diacritics gets very difficult. That's our state in Kali Yuga. But here is Keshav Kashmiri who could compose shlokas and at will, spontaneously, in any topic that he's requested to. So on the banks of the Ganga, he composed over 100 shlokas in 1 hour, in different metrical styles and melodies and lengths. And at the end of it all, when he exhausted all of his compositions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled as Nimai Pandit. And then when Keshav Kashmiri said, "What do you think about it?" Nimai Pandit said, "Do you want me to start with the glories, or do you want me to start discussing the faults?" And Keshav Kashmiri said, "Faults? There are no faults. There are faults if you think they are false because you can't understand the subject matter. What do you know? You teaching and learning elementary or rudimentary grammar. What do you know about figures of speech and ornamentation in poetry?" And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and told himself in his mind, well, time will tell. Who knows what? And then as he starts ripping the Mahatvam Gangaya shloka, the very famous verse, to pieces, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finds one fault after another, and names 5 of them, and tells Keshav Kashmiri, there are actually unlimited faults in your poetry. It's just that you can't handle more than 5. So I'll leave it at that. And at this point, with every fault that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually spotlighting on Keshav Kashmiri had nothing to say. It's almost like Saraswati Devi, who was empowering him to compose, had taken away his memory, had taken away his wisdom, and he had nothing to say in rebuttal. And all of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, they were all laughing and joking and making fun. It's described they were nudging and poking at each other and said, "Did you see? He has nothing to say in return." And at that time, in the context of our discussion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks at all of his students and he says, "Shh, don't make fun of him. He's a very great soul. It's just that he's very tired today because he's gone from one bathing ghat to another, debating and arguing with so many scholars. It's already nighttime. So he's very tired. Don't judge him and don't laugh. Don't you dare gossip." And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu folds his palms and he tells Keshav Kashmiri, "Oh great soul, you seem to be very tired. Why don't you take rest and you come back tomorrow and maybe we can continue from there." Very humble. And then we know how that night in the dream, it was Mother Saraswati who revealed herself to Keshav Kashmiri, because Keshav Kashmiri couldn't believe how Saraswati had given up on such a dear devotee, because he had chanted the Saraswati mantra. According to Chaitanya Bhagavat, he had perfected the Purashcharan of chanting. Purashcharan means you take a certain mantra of your Ishtadev and you repeat it over and over again 1,000,000 times, and then you get perfection by chanting. So Keshav Kashmiri had had Sakshat Darshan, the direct audience of Saraswati Devi, who had blessed him that I bless you, you will be invincible. You will be invincible by anyone created by God. And now when Keshav Kashmiri was asking for an answer, Saraswati Devi in the dream revealed, well, my blessing still holds true. I said, I will bless you with victory against anyone who is created by God, but you fool, you took on my master. Nimai Pandit is my master. Matta smriti jnanam apohanamja. Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrahma sevyamanam. Millions of Saraswatis and Lakshmis worship the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, who comes in the mood of Sri Radharani as Nimai Pandit. So then we find how Saraswati Devi reveals the identity. And then the next day, Keshav Kashmiri comes and falls at the lotus feet of Nimai Pandit. He knocks the door of Nimai Vishwambar Mishra's home. And Nimai opens the door and Keshav Kashmiri is falling at his feet and rolling in the dust. And Nimai says, please don't do this, you're a great scholar. What will people think? I'm simply a mere mortal. Keshav Kashmiri said, you tried to cheat me once, please don't do this again. I know who you are. You have the power to put others in illusion. But now, by the blessings of Saraswati Devi, that curtain of illusion has been opened and your identity has been revealed. I offer myself at your lotus feet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at Keshav Kashmiri and said, shh, don't tell this to anyone. So we learn two things from this pastime. One, Krishna has the power to put others in illusion, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put Keshav Kashmiri. And second, if someone is in illusion, we don't have the audacity or the authority to laugh at that person. Another example we find of this principle is Jagai and Madhai. When Jagai and Madhai were rescued by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they had a change of heart, after that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu announced to everyone in the town of Navadvip, now Jagai and Madhai have become Jagadananda and Madhavananda. They have become great Brahmanas, great devotees. Now, no one in Navadvip should ever go back to their past and remind themselves and remind them of their past. Teaches us a very important lesson that we may all have our past. Someone may come from a past which is not worth speaking about. But that's fine. Doesn't matter which door we enter through. The fact is we have entered the temple of Radha Golokananda. Someone may come from India, someone may come from America, someone may have had a liquor store in the past, someone may have a karate or a kung fu profession, someone may be a devotee right from birth, someone may join at the age of 70. Doesn't matter who they are, where they are, what they are. Once the river flows in and meets into the ocean, then you don't have to remind the river of its origin. We may see so many devotees join from different backgrounds and different professions and different mistakes. We shouldn't remind each other, and we should definitely not remind that person of their past. We don't have the authority. Just like we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu telling his devotees not to laugh at Keshav Kashmiri, or Yudhishthir Maharaj in this context, telling the Pandavas, please don't laugh at Duryodhan. Yes, Duryodhan may be an envious person, and it may be quite funny that this beautiful palace of illusion is putting him into illusion, and it may be funny to see someone walk through floor as if it's water and walk confidently through water thinking it's floor and getting drenched, but it's not our duty to laugh at them. In fact, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I believe in Krishna Samhita or Chaitanya Shikshamrita, one of the two books, he mentions it is Vaishnav Aparad to judge a Vaishnav on their past. Once one has taken up to bhakti, then it is not our duty to remind that individual or remind ourselves of the mistakes that that individual has made before. We shouldn't laugh, we shouldn't mock, we shouldn't gossip, we shouldn't tease that individual or behind the back of that individual with another person of the slips and falls that that devotee has gone through. Now, if you actually think about it, so many examples are there about this principle. Another great example that we find is the story of Sri Rupa Goswami, whose meditation was abrupted or paused or obstructed when he was chuckling at one pastime of Radha and Krishna, but externally that quote-unquote offended another Vaishnava who happened to be physically crippled. That devotee was walking past Rupa Goswami, who was with closed eyes meditating on the pastime of Radha and Krishna. And the Leela that Rupa Goswami was meditating on was at Kusum Sarovar. In fact, on the banks of Kusum Sarovar at Shamwan, at Govardhan, where Radharani was picking flowers to string flowers into garland to offer it to Krishna. And this beautiful flower was on a top branch of a tree. And she looked at Krishna and she said, "Hey Sham, would you be able to somehow get that flower for me?" Krishna said, "Why not? I can do anything for you." Krishna climbed up that tree, and with his lotus feet, he pressed the branch so that the branch lowers itself, and the flower was in the hand's reach for Sri Radharani. But as soon as Sri Radharani caught the branch and she was trying to pick that flower, Krishna released his lotus feet. Now the branch went up, and now was Sri Radharani up there on the top of the branch hanging. And she was now crying for help, and Krishna got down the tree and said, "How can I help you now?" Radharani said, "I am too high on top of this tall tree. I don't know how to get down." Krishna said, "Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Sarva dharman paritija." Give up that attachment, and then I am there to hold you. And at that time, as Radharani was getting scared, Krishna was joking with her, and Rupa Goswami was meditating on the conversation between Brishabhanu Nandini Sri Radharani and Nandanandan Rasik Shekhar Sri Shamsundar Sri Krishna. And in that meditation, in that Leela Smaran, Sri Rupa Goswami was laughing and chuckling, completely oblivious to what's happening in this world. And it just so happened that there was a Vaishnava who was walking past, who misunderstood this to be Rupa Goswami laughing at his physical condition. And it so happened that Rupa Goswami's Leela Smarana, or entrance into that pastime, was obstructed. That Leela disappeared. And Rupa Goswami was now thinking, what went wrong? I don't know what went wrong. And he asked Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami said, the only reason that can happen is if you happen to laugh at the faults or mistakes of others. Did that happen? Rupa Goswami said, I don't think so. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think so that happened. Sanatan Goswami said, think about it. And Rupa Goswami said, well, I don't think so. I did this on purpose, but I feel there was a Vaishnava who may have gotten offended when I was actually meditating, and he may have thought this to be me chuckling and laughing at his disability. Sanatan Goswami said, why don't you go and speak to that Vaishnava and fall at his feet and beg for forgiveness? And Rupa Goswami did go to that Vaishnava and clarified, and that's when the Leela continued. Now we may say, well, many times we may not intend to, but what if others do take that as an offense? What do? Are we answerable to every Vaishnava whom we didn't intend to offend, but somehow got offended? Because in every circumstance in life, everywhere, some or the other person may not like us. And some or the other person may get offended even at us sitting and chanting japa, for example. Somebody